Brenda.
Good, thank you. Hi there.
Hi, your choice. Yeah. How's it going? It's quick, yeah? Sure. Yeah, please.
Are you going on now, or?
Yeah, we're going to go live right now. Yeah, right at the top of the hour.
Okay.
You know where that? Yeah.
Do you mind if I borrow you after she's done with you?
How you feeling now? You okay?
Yeah.
We just have to bring you over there because our signal is a bit wrong.
Right. Go ahead, lead the way.
Brandon, did we talk before?
Yeah, you did.
Brandon, I didn't recognize you.
I know.
Go for a number or something.
Are we going live? Why? Okay. Brandon, tell me what happened. You decided to chain yourself in the yurt.
Yeah. So basically, we didn't ask permission to take this park like all the other occupies. We just did it based on support from the community and the sheer numbers. That to us is the legitimate authority for us to do something like that. That's where democracy lies, in direct democracy, in our opinion. What I was trying to show by, as an individual, chaining myself to that the main authority figure is not necessarily the police, the guys with guns. It's more of a mental control technique. People police themselves. There's a cop in your head. And I'm trying to encourage people to kill that cop in their head.
Tell us.
Which sounds a bit nuts, but it just means to override that authority that's internalized into you and to begin to act as you see is right. And contrary to how the guys with guns who actually then show up and take control of your body, put you in a cage and that sort of stuff.
You police yourself. Well, tell me then, how did the police treat you?
They dragged me pretty roughly. I mean, I didn't resist or anything like that, but they don't go easy. It hurts the groin area, especially when they're pulling you, lifting your entire body weight by your groin. Obviously, that doesn't feel good. That's part of what the police do. They're violent.
So that's what happened to you today?
They control you with violence, and I mean, it's a Pavlovian response. You're afraid of the violence, so you police yourself. And I'm trying to encourage people, if we really want systemic change, we have to overcome the cop in our head, and then we can confront the real cops.
Can I ask you though, what was the demeanor with the police? Were they trying to be cooperative? To discuss that with you?
No, we didn't really talk, and they didn't talk to me.
Okay.
They didn't seem interested.
And what's the next step with your arrest?
Well, I mean, it's basically something like a ticket. But I mean, the problem is, so they're saying in the eviction notice said that we couldn't be in the park from midnight until about 5:30 a.m. But of course, I was arrested at around 4 p.m. So now the question is, what's the actual status of this park? And this has been created by the fact that they have to use extra repressive measures on a public park. Really, we should just be there, able to be there. We never blocked it from people who were walking their dogs. Lots of people came through all the time. I was one of the organizers that helped plan this and do it. We always encouraged and really, really loved it when people came in from the local community, but also outside. That's the bread and butter of the movement. That's how we grow.
Okay. Now, do you find yourself agreeing with still the Occupy movement or not?
Oh, absolutely.
Because some people have described you as anarchists.
Yeah. Well, the movement itself is anarchistic. We have no leaders. We have no hierarchy. We do things through an egalitarian General Assembly format. The committee services that I'm on, such as logistics, action committee, but also mainly marshals and security, they're federated. There's not one ruling over the other. And we all work together and cooperate. And also are transparent. That's anarchism. Anarchism doesn't mean chaos. That's wrong. It means no rulers. That's what an means, and archism. No hierarchy, no rulers.
But wasn't the collective decision then to be in a cooperation with police and negotiate and let them take the yurt for people to leave?
I opposed that decision. I didn't.
I see. Okay.
I don't have anything against my fellow protesters. I actually love a lot of them quite deeply from sharing 5 weeks now with them. But I was mainly expressing my own autonomy. We have solidarity and autonomy, and they're not mutually exclusive. They work in conjunction. So on a lot of things we do have solidarity and work together. On this particular question, I felt an autonomous action was important to move it in the right direction, which is a confrontation with the police in our head so that we can properly address the real police.
Thanks so much for
Thanks. Hey.
Spelling your name.
BRA? Yeah. NDON? name Ray.
And were you charged or were you just
I got a support summons, so it's like a trespass. But part of the issue was, as I mentioned, the eviction notice was saying we couldn't be there from midnight to 5:30 a.m. and I was for some reason arrested at 4 p.m. So that doesn't make sense. And now I'm left with the problem of, if I go back in the park, am I in breach of it? I mean, what's the deal actually here? They say I just can't be there from midnight to 5:30. But I mean, lots of people use public parks from midnight to 5:30. People who, work night shifts and want to have their lunch in a park can't do that, and will be arrested for trespassing. That's not a public park.
You're not allowed on a public place, man.
Yeah, that's the problem. They say they opened it up for the park up to the public now that we're gone, when it was safer and more public when we had our protest here than it is now. So that's a complete contradiction. I don't think they'll address.
It's a hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's an hypocrisy.
They treat you okay when they pulled you up? I talked to you the other night. I talked to so many people and I was tough to keep straight.
You got a ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a
Ina's going December 22nd. She was the woman that
Oh, wow.
hers was written up for
Is that
December
it?
22nd.
Are you guys good?
Yeah, man. Hey, man. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just an artist and I'm putting this up on YouTube, eh?
Okay, yeah.
So, just in your own words, like how you describe today and everything that went down, being like experiencing it firsthand, I mean, would you say like this is like the epitome of where we're at in a free society?
Well, I don't think there really is any freedom.
No, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel free at all, does it?
There's freedom to choose Coke or Pepsi.
Yeah.
That's about it.
But this is not a public place, and it's not really a free.
No. I mean, that's the thing. The word public is used by the government to try to make it seem like something it just can't be.
So you're not really free unless you abide by the oppressive rules.
Yeah, which every government has to do. I think the only just government is no government at all.
So this is not free land at the end of the day.
No. I mean,
So,
what they call democracy is a sham. It's the 1% putting out Coke, Pepsi, or Diet Cola. So I chose none of the above, and that's not an apathetic decision. That's
So
actually.
if there's no free land, there's nowhere to go, essentially.
Well, I mean, we shouldn't think about where to run to.
Well, I'm just saying if I can't
agree,
pay
yeah.
my rent, right? I'm living month to month.
Yeah.
Where do I go? I mean, if these guys are homeless, where are they going to go now that they've been kicked out?
That's the problem, yeah. And that's
You know
what
what I
we're trying to
mean?
address.
I mean, it's one of many issues. I've seen many messages in the whole movement. Obviously, is an issue of inequality.
Yeah, that's the biggest one, and
know.
that has all sorts of facets to it.
Yeah.
It shouldn't just be one word. It needs to be explored more.
Yeah,
Because then within
the
that you
theme.
get like racialization and things like that, like with First Nations communities, with other visible minorities.
Yeah.
You have inequality, but it's also bound up with these other things.
Yeah.
Gender is another one. Sexual orientation, these sorts of things that can ostracize and undermine your ability to earn or be as an equal.
And then there's abortion. How many people that have missed their chance to be alive and be somebody?
Well, I mean, abortion is a tragedy, but I mean, on that issue, I'm definitely pro-choice.
Yeah.
I think it's neither are desirable outcomes.
Well, you have a choice. That's the first thing.
No, you don't.
Well, you do have a choice now that you're alive, but somebody who's aborted doesn't have a choice.
Well, depending on
You know
how
what
late
I mean?
you're talking about, they weren't a person.
Well, no, they're
Doesn't
still a
begin
living
with-
being, right? You start off as a living being
Well,
before you become
so
a
is
person.
I mean, you're probably walking on lots of.
Well,
living
if you
beings.
have a name, that makes you a person. You can be given a name before you're born.
That's not the biological definition of life. I feel like we're straight astray here, bud.
Well, this is just another issue. I'm just talking about the bigger picture about, like what it means to be a human being in a free society.
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
That's kind of a separate issue. Abortion is not really bound up with the act of private.
Well, you know what?
It's kind of more of a-
it's hard
more
to
of a
appreciate
religious-
the fellow man and fellow human being, whatever. If we don't take all the issues into account. I know this is an economic issue, it's this issue, it's that issue. My point is, I've been seeing a lot of messages, and they're all mixed. So everyone's saying
There's a lot of
something,
consistency. I
but
talked
at the end of the
about
day, right? It's about inequality. It's about
Yeah.
quality of life.
Yeah.
And where does that life begin? And where does the quality of life begin? You know, I mean,
I don't think it begins at conception. I think that's absurd. It requires religious faith to.
well, it's a scientific fact. It's
No.
not. It's nothing to do with religion.
It's completely.
Human life begins at conception.
It's the antithesis of science and reason. It's faith and religion.
Human life begins at conception, though.
That's not true. That's
Yeah, it's
silly.
a fact. It's a scientific
Talking
fact.
about basically a couple cells of goop. That's not a human.
But you got to start somewhere.
Well, why
You know,
stop there?
it doesn't start with the beer.
Well, why isn't it a twinkle in the eye, right?
Well, yeah. All right, cheers.